Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, back with some league racing action once again today, and we are here for TSRL. I believe it is round 12 of this championship. Can't always keep up, but I believe it's somewhere along those lines. And this track, like you saw at WR, is a track I thoroughly enjoy. And just a pre-warning, which you can probably already see by this video, this is going to be a pretty long one because I included a lot of raw footage, which a lot of people seem to enjoy. And I just think it's very, very useful and just gives you the full picture of what happened in the race. Because this race was a very, very significant one in the championship. So make sure you try and stay tuned all the way to the end. But you can see so far, the context of this is that I was going into this race with a 40-point lead in the championship over probably the fastest man on Xbox right now, Mr. JKB, who is very, very hard to beat in a qualifying session and has been on a good run of momentum quite recently. But in Canada and France, the last two races, we have actually outscored him. And that has been the story of my championship. Started off the season absolutely fantastic in the Williams. Ever since I then had the driver transfer over to the Alfa Romeo, I've had some good races, but I just haven't had a race where everything has all come together. And probably just the two races of Zandvoort and Baku, I felt I was incredibly unlucky there and lost a lot of points. And then other races, it's just been the case of just not really coming together, some by fortune, but also some by just my own decisions and just my own confidence with the track itself. But yeah, the difference in this championship has been that even when I haven't been on form, I've actually put in quite a good performance when my rivals haven't, and I've just consistently, other than the start of the season, I've consistently just had really either good damage limitation or I have outscored them, which has kept me extending the lead in this championship, to be honest. So I did have a big lead, lost a lot of points because of the Zandvoort and Baku, but then ever since then I really have been gaining quite a few points by just being consistent and keeping it clean when it counts. But you can see Q1 we managed to get through on the wet intermediates, which was pretty comfortable. Now we're through into Q2, and I'm always going to be starting this race on the soft tyres. The race is due to be dry, and that allowed me to use actually 3 sets of softs in Q2 because you really only have time for 2 runs if you get through to Q3. So the first 2 runs here, you can see I did a 24.0 every time, which was not particularly insane, and you can see it on my outlap. I'm actually in P6, which has put me a little bit on the bubble, as JKB does a 23.6, so really stamping his authority on how fast he is over a lap. And coming into this race, I definitely, from WR, had a bit of confidence after almost winning that race in the most competitive league on Xbox, in terms of pure qualifying pace, I'd say, which JKB is leading that championship, funny enough. But here, I really prepared well for this, and the setup I'm using for this race here is a little bit different to WR. I made a few little tweaks, which I always tend to find quite a bit of an improvement between the 2 days. The setup I had on here was honestly probably the best setup I've ever used in a league race. The quali and the race pace, just the comfort. It was aggressive, but really just I couldn't have found any more time with this setup, to be honest. It had the perfect balance between the quali and race, and JKB does at 23.6. I had to go for another lap anyway. I thought I probably would be safe, but it would have been quite risky. So I am going to go for another lap, but I decided to throw it absolute everything at this lap, really, to be honest. And this is the best lap I did throughout the entire qualifying session, going double purple, and you can see we're 2.5 attempts up on a 24.0. So this lap is going absolutely phenomenal, and as I said, I think this is probably the best lap I've ever done round this track, because Q2, the track evolution is not going to be as high as it's in Q3. So coming across the line, we actually pipped JKB a 23.6, and I think if I did that in Q3, that would probably be a 23.4 or something like that. And honestly, doing that lap time was so important for the mental mind games or the psychology, because I think JQB, when he did that time, he was probably very, very happy with himself, seeing me on a 24-0 and thinking he had quite a bit of a buffer. But then me able to put in that kind of time definitely sends a message to my opponents that I have the ability to have a very good opportunity at the pole position. But in the first round of Q3, we did a 23-9. JQB starting 7, and FRA Ron Ha, who's very, very quick, who's a reserve in this league, has put in a 23-6. So this is the final lap of the session, and we're not in a particularly comfortable position because we are on P7. We're coming to this braking zone, talking over the lap now. A really, really good entrance to these corners. First gear for a little bit extra rotation. Make sure you don't go on the curb too much, and it's a semi good first sector. It could have been a lot worse, but definitely could have been a bit better as well. And going for the first sector split, it's a 26, very 0.6, a very, very high 6. So not as good as what I did in Q2. And I think you can see on this lap, it definitely isn't as good as it was in the Q2 lap so far. But nonetheless, still almost a 10th up. And that would put me quite a way up the grid if I just improved that much. So taking a nice line through the old turn one. Now it's my favourite sequence of corners on the game itself. Absolutely almost perfect through here. Could have been a little bit better, but you can see a purple middle sector, 2/10 up now on my lap, a 101 minutes 0.8 middle, which is very, very good. Absolutely nailing the end of the hanger straight, and look how much time we're gaining on this exit. And I knew all I had to do was hook the inside of this, and I did. I got that absolutely perfect. That last chicane really could not have been any better. And going across the line, come on, yes! You could tell I was very, very happy of that.
I don't think that'll be enough.
But I was expecting JQB or FRA, the Renault, as he's coming through the last chicane now, I was expecting him to maybe beat this time. But JQB has actually finished his lap and going across the line. I don't get the pole, but I start on the front row for actually the 8th time this season. I've started in 2nd place, which is, I think that just shows what is making the difference in this championship. Although my quali pace is definitely normally never as good as my race pace, we have just been really consistent when it has actually mattered. And yeah, honestly, I was very, very happy of that. Wasn't able to beat his lap, even on a perfect lap, really, to be honest. Maybe a perfect lap, maybe a 4, but honestly, I was very, very happy of that. And JKB actually invalidated his last lap. And again, I think that Q2 lap was a lot more important than people think. Just getting inside that psychology. But now, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights here, ahead of my championship rivals. And as the lights go out now, we try and get a very, very good start. And we get such a good launch off the line here. And we're already into P1. Going through turn 1 here. The Renault is side by side with me. So I'm going to leave him some room. But making sure I carry the speed. Making sure I get the racing line. And just stamping my authority on the race lead here. And this honestly cannot go any better for me right now. And I said to my teammate before this race, if I can get into the lead of this race, then I really think that I can just control this, because as I said before, between WR and TSRL, I always find normally a bit of time in the quali, but mainly it's the race. I normally find like 2/10 of that gain or something like that, and I certainly had that in this race. And this is the absolute perfect position for me now. And you can see lap 2 still leading after lap 1, and my strategy here, as you're about to see quite a lot of raw footage, was just to not really use any ERS whatsoever, because I felt it was quite difficult to overtake around here. I always got a very good exit of Magnus and Beckett. So you can see we're still about 90% on the ERS. But if you look at the delta has actually gone up. So I don't know if he's had a lag spike or if he's made a mistake. So now I'm actually going to go against what my strategy was doing, what I was thinking before this race, of saving the US, because I thought if I could get out of the DRS zone, then there's a really good opportunity, or big opportunity, that I can pull away, because I felt like I had the speed to definitely pull away in this race. So I'm trying quite hard now. You can see the gap is about 9/10 of a second as we go into the chicane, and right now I was just feeling complete one with the car. And I know it sounds really, really cheesy to say, but I just felt I just felt like I had such a perfect balance. You can see another dab of the overtake button. We are over a second, so through the detection point, I don't think he's actually going to get DRS on this lap. So I thought this would be such a good opportunity, but I run a little bit wide on that curb, so it didn't give me as good exit as I thought. The gap is just constantly flickering between under a second or over a second, and going into here, setting a purple first sector, almost going 4 tenths faster, so we are really pushing now, but the gap is about under 9 tenths and going up again. And I thought to myself, you know what, if I keep doing this, I'm just going to deplete all my ERS. And I think you hear me say there, I thought, you know what, it's really just not worth it, because I know he's using his ERS and it's quite easy to save it again. So I thought, you know what, there really is no point. So for the rest of the stint, I just maintained the lead, and you can see I've just really controlled my ERS usage now, because the strategy was that the overcut I felt was a real thing around this track, and I definitely tested it in practice quite a lot with some really fast drivers. My plan was just to save the ERS as much as I could, and then force him to use his ERS. Then I get the overcut, and then I can just break out of DRS. That was the strategy. So at the end of lap 8, I pretty much do a little pump fake going into the pits, which then sends him into the pits. So I don't know if that really made a difference or not. But that's exactly what I wanted. I was really hoping that he would pit before me. And now I decide to use all of my ERS, because the soft tyres are quite durable around this track. And I just felt so confident in my pace as well, which you're about to see by the delta on this lap itself. They don't really drop off that much, and the medium tyres actually take a little while to warm up, or there really isn't any difference between them whatsoever. So for me, this felt like this was just absolutely going to perfection, this race so far. I'm just managing the race so well, really good pace, no warnings. As Jakey B, I forgot to mention, he actually got taken out on the first lap, so he is that car going through turn 1 into turn 2. So my main championship rival is in P17 in this race, and at the moment looks like he is going to have no chance of any points. So honestly, could not be going any better for me in terms of how this race is going. But we do have McCabe Sam, who is hanging on. You can see the delta. We are actually going faster than my fastest lap of the race of a 27.6, and again, I just felt like this was just, the stars were just absolutely aligning. So I'm going to go into the pits, making sure I respond this lap, and getting on to the braking point pretty nicely for the pit limiter. And you know, as I said in practice, the undercut really wasn't a thing around here. It was actually more of an overcut with anything. So if I could get out ahead of him and out of the DRS zone, then I felt so confident that I could just pull away, especially with the fresher tyres as well. I just felt like it wasn't really for the fresher tyres, but it was just so that I could do this overcut on him. But you are about to see that it doesn't quite go to that plan, and you will see the reason why. So as it's coming down the pit lane, I'm just constantly looking for this Renault, and you can see he's actually come out ahead of me, quite a way ahead of me. So I was really surprised that he had an undercut, because my in-lap, you saw by my in-lap delta that my in-lap was good. It wasn't slow or anything, but you are about to see on the top left, he has a 5-second time penalty, and that is because he is sped into the pits. So I'm not sure quite how much he sped into the pits, but it definitely meant that his in-lap was a lot quicker than it should have been. And it can make quite a big difference, sometimes like half a second or something like that, or maybe even more. I think it definitely did around this track. So yeah, he's got a 5-second penalty, which again, all that means for me now that all I have to do is stay within 5 seconds of him, and I pretty much win this race, because the only competition I have behind really is, well, not quite win this race, but I have McCabe Sam behind me and I have LCR Leopard, but I felt like I had them covered, definitely per pace, because it's very difficult to overtake around here. It's quite surprising enough. So right now, I knew that probably Ron here probably used a lot of ERS on the in-lap, as well as speeding into the pits to gain that advantage. So I just felt to myself, you know what, I'm just going to get into the rhythm of this race. He's probably expecting me to use my ERS quite early, as he's definitely using his ERS because he's done a 27.1, which is pretty handy at this stage of the race, especially being on mediums as well. So I knew he's probably using a lot of his ERS, and I definitely have more ERS than him because I managed it very, very well in the first stint. So this lap, I'm going to push a little bit just to let him think that I'm really pushing, because he's probably anticipating that I want to get in his DRS as early as possible, because he is only 1.3 seconds ahead of me, so I only have to gain 3 tenths to get in this DRS zone. But I just want him to really burn down his ERS, and then once I get onto the back of him, try and actually break out of his DRS. So that was really the strategy that I was looking to do. So not pushing too hard this lap, get up behind him, overtake him quickly, and then break out the DRS. Or if I can't break out the DRS, just do what I did in the first stint, where out of Magnus and Beckett, this is really the main overtaking spot. I always had a very, very good run off this corner, and it was very, very hard for him to overtake me. So even if he stuck with me, no, he has a 5-second penalty anyway. So my main competition right now is definitely McCabe Sam and LCR Leopard. So everything all going to plan, actually gaining some time on him on this lap as well. And now this is the lap where I actually definitely step it up another level. So going across the line, we do a 27.2 without using that much ERS on that lap here. And you can see we're not pushing to get in the DRS zone at this moment in time. You can see McCabe Sam is almost out of our DRS already. So just confirming that I feel we definitely do have a little bit of a race pace advantage. And now I'm going to push to make sure I get the DRS going through Maggots and Beckett's, and also to try and break the DRS of McCabe Sam and Leopard behind me as well. Because, as I said, I think if I could get out of this DRS zone, then it will make my race a lot easier. So coming off this corner, I'm going to use a bit of it here now just to make sure I am in that window, but not using too much. So I'm expending all of it, and you can see we are quite comfortably within the DRS window, as McCabe Sam is just barely within mine. So it's almost neck and neck between the two, but we are definitely going to get a good run. And coming off Magnus and Beckett's, we're getting an absolutely excellent run. So I'm not even going to use any of the ERS. I'm just going to let the DRS do the power for me. And as a result of that, that has actually dropped Sam out of my DRS behind me. So this is going so well at this point in time. And now we've just cruised right up to the back of Ron here, and we still have a good amount of ERS to use at this point as well. As we come across the line, it's a 26.7, which is actually, I think, faster than my fastest lap I did in WOR as well. So getting onto the back of Ron here, he's going to have DRS up ahead of him, which is just going to pull me away even more from the cars behind as they actually start to battle. So again, not using it unnecessarily. And I'm just thinking now, just save up my ERS again, just wait until the end of the race. And no, I don't even need to overtake him at this point. Only if I start to get a little bit of pressure from behind. But coming through into here, stay nice and close, not using any ERS on the exit, because we just really don't need to at this point in the race. And the gap is almost 1.4 behind us now. So, but now the safety car has come out, and the safety car has probably come out at the absolute perfect time, to be honest, because any earlier, the people on mediums who haven't pitted or now going into the pits, as you're about to see, it'll probably be too long for them on their tyres. And if this came out like a lap or two later, they probably would have already pitted. So I've got a big decision to make now. And these kind of decisions can just completely change the race. So as we're approaching the pits, right here, I can't decide if I should stay out or go in. And the decision that I'm making now is that I've gone into the pits. And I've done that because Ron here has gone into the pits, and my teammate has also gone into the pits, because there is a glitch on this game that if you pit on the same lap, you can be held. Well, actually, that doesn't make sense, does it? Because that means I shouldn't pit. So ignore what I'm saying completely. But yeah, I feel like I quickly realised that this was just the wrong decision to do, because my mediums were still in good condition. As my teammate does pit, I think I was meant to say that my team's pitted, so it could hold me up a little bit like that, which it has, but it wasn't too bad. But
so fucking unlucky.
Yeah, I'm saying there that I'm really unlucky, but to be honest, looking back at this race, it just wasn't unlucky. It was just me making a completely wrong decision because my mediums were only a couple laps old, and I would have come out in the lead again. And I just literally just reacted to what FRA did, and Leopard behind me has done the same thing as well. And I think JKB, he's had to come in. So my thinking was that I'm just going to do what my rivals did. But now I'm on tyres, but they're not even new option tyres because I actually used 5 in qualifying. These are actually used tyres as well. When I have to do 11 laps, so I was almost running to the back of Felipe. And from going from a net P1 to now in a net P11 out of the points, it just shows how quickly these decisions can be made. And to be honest, no, it wasn't unlucky. It was still very much in my favour because the mediums, they are very, very good durable tyre. And the softs, although they are very, very fast, it's very, very difficult to overtake around here. Even if I got overtaken by one person, it's very, very difficult. But I think my mentality in that decision really was, what if I stayed out and everyone else went on softs and then I'd be swallowed up alive by everyone on softs. That was my fear, really, to be honest. So yeah, that was really what my concern was. But ultimately, it's like when I engineer for the esport guys, it's surprising how often you can make a dumb decision being in a car when you just don't think about the full circumstances of what's going on as well. It was just a bad decision, just a poor decision, and if I stayed out, I would probably be leading or in second place right now. But the only good thing for me here is that my rivals, Leopard and JKB, who are directly behind me in this championship, and Felipe as well, I'm actually all technically ahead of him because Felipe's got a penalty, JKB's behind me, and so is Leopard as well. So that is the only positive right now. But it's just thinking about what could have been if the safety car didn't come out for a start. It's very, very random when it comes out. But again, this just wasn't being unlucky really necessarily. This was just making the wrong decision, and it can prove very, very costly as I'm going down the inside. So a little bit of a desperate move, and I think at this point in the race, I was extremely, extremely frustrated. I'm being put under pressure from Leopard, who really needs to start gaining points for me in this championship. So he's really going to probably risk everything, whilst I have everything to lose at this stage. And I'm up ahead with 3 people who all have penalties, and they're all just fighting amongst themselves. And this is a nightmare scenario for me. This is not what I want, because it's going to be so easy to get damage. And I'll admit at this stage of the race, I was pretty flustered, pretty frustrated, and I'm not using my ERS that well. It's just, I wasn't in a very good mentality, just a complete polar opposite to what I was at the start of a race. And I think that just shows how much a race can change. And yeah, you can argue a bit unlucky with the safety car, with the timing of it and everything for sure, but sometimes you've got to make the right decisions. And on this occasion, that's why I feel it's really important to have an engineer most of the time, especially when in a competitive league, because it can make such a big decision here. So I go down the inside of Raceway, who he himself has a penalty, but the way I've been having to use my ERS defending from Leopard and just desperately trying to gain some points, because I just really wanted to get ahead of these people. I just wanted to win the race, to be honest, because I've pretty much lost the race lead almost, and I just wanted that back because it's been a while since I won a race, and being in the position I was in, I was just so hungry to win this race. I was so desperate to win. I just wanted it so badly. I just wanted to win so badly, to be honest, and that's why I'm just doing everything I can to make up positions, as my 2 rivals are actually battling side by side. But the problem is now is I don't really have any ERS to overtake on, and I think it is just demonstrating this track that it is so hard to actually overtake, as I'm now having to defend from Leopard. You can see the lap time delta here. On mediums, I was going so much faster in this as well, but it's just the pure fact that I'm in traffic and batting is what's happening here. So now Jacob B is starting to attack me here, and things could really change in this championship so easy, because if Jacob B gets ahead of me, or Leopard, and he manages to get ahead of these cars, instead of me gaining points, I could be losing points. Considering Jakey B was in last after lap 1 by 20 seconds, now he has got an opportunity to gain points in me this championship. It shows how quickly things can change. Just make a little bit of contact with Raceway as he goes down the inside of Felipe, and these guys are just fighting tooth and nail despite the penalties that these guys have. They're just acting like they don't have any penalties or anything at this stage. So I'm trying so hard to get ahead of Raceway. So go around the outside here. And the grip in these tyres is not particularly great at this stage in the race. But I do get the move done. Put a car between myself and my rival. And I think Leopard and Jakey B have actually come together a little bit as well. Yeah, at this stage in the race, I was just a very frustrated man, because I was really coming into this race on Friday thinking that I want to win this. I just want nothing but a win, because I love Silverstone, and I felt like some of the things that have happened to me recently, I put in so much effort for this race, and just for things not to go my way and just make the poor decision that I did has cost me. But as we come across the last corner, we are going to finish in P7, which is not what I wanted, but I have at least gained another 6 points in this championship, which at the end of the day, it doesn't matter even if you don't win a race. It is about consistently outscoring your opponents, and that is what the difference is in this championship at the moment. I'm able to capitalise when my opponents aren't doing well, but when I'm not doing well, my opponents don't capitalise on it, and that is the difference, and that often is the difference in a championship as well. So I really hope you enjoyed that. Definitely a big lesson for me. As I said, it's so much easier at times when you're not driving to make those kind of decisions. Although it may feel incredibly obvious, it's a lot harder than it is. So definitely a tough one to take, but still some positive results at the end of it as well. So thank you so much. Thank you for the support on my channel, and I will catch you tomorrow for a live stream around Hungary. Thank you very much, and catch you soon. Peace.